Write it legibly.
Oh, I'll try.
Put it in the minutes.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, I spent with whoever is the select board's audience, XR audience from Monday.
I don't see Mary still, but I'm watching.
There's still another minute.
You'll give me 1 minute. Somebody had a quick question for me, so I just want to answer. I'm gonna fall.
Okay,
You know,
there
if
you
I
go.
fall, then, you know, maybe I won't have to go.
Are you gonna be using
Yes.
those mics? I don't have a problem with it. but-
Oh, no, there was just two here, so.
Do you want me to, oh, I know, you want this, you want this one there?
Just gonna turn down whichever ones are being used, that's all.
Oh, okay.
So you can turn that one.
So I can turn down 7.
If you say.
Probably.
These are turned down unless somebody comes up to talk. Yeah, I just okay. Want to turn down ones that aren't being used.
No, I don't know. That doesn't pass. I've been having with them all the time.
So the next step is.
Yeah.
School committee and then the school committee has time to consider submitting the same or a different budget or even longer.
Like a special meeting. Okay. And probably like the same time frame. June. Staff and yelling. Just for me, I wanted to.
Yeah.
In July.
Actually, I messed up and then I put my below needs updating one paragraph too. On Finance Committee meeting, open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded.
There's no sleep.
Okay, we didn't do this Monday. Do we on the minutes from the previous Finance Committee from last Wednesday, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make the motion to approve the minutes of March 26th.
March 26th, correct.
Second it.
Okay, any other discussion on those minutes? Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, I.
Cliff, I.
All right, minutes passed 3-0. In the minutes, I sent out the last minute tonight for on Mondays. Did anybody have a chance to review those?
I
completely?
did. I'll make the motion to approve them.
Yeah, I'll wait. We have a second from Heidi and give her a moment to review it. I keep them very simple, so.
No, Mary still that I can see.
I just sent her a text message saying, please join us if you can.
Thank you.
That was March 31st that day, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Let me know when you're good, Heidi. This evening? I hope that they went to you.
I got them.
Let me double
There we
check.
go.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
Okay, no further discussion. Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, I.
Cliff Eye.
All right, minutes of 3:31 approved. Okay, let's get to the budget that the latest one that you're showing.
The latest,
Yeah.
okay.
Can you bring it up on the?
I can-
the-
Be in everybody's way of
No.
seeing this. Should we move it that way more, or am I like literally sitting in?
You're
front of the
fine.
TV
You're
for
You're
you?
fine.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. So I went and did a deep dive into the budget because it wasn't tying out when I looked at the revenue and expenditures. So I went and looked at everything about 15 times today at least. And now everything does tie out. There were a couple of little minor formula things. One of it was when we moved the animal control. It wasn't picking up that formula in the brand new column. It was picking it up in the previous columns that I had fixed, but in the final column, it hadn't picked it up. So it's now picking that up. And one question I have for you all is, and this is something I would need a vote on, there was one like line item that wasn't totaling and I couldn't figure out why it was off by $4,000, and it was in the human services budget. And it is this line 84, community social services. Last year, we talked about taking that out. It somehow made its way into the budget. It's not money that's being expended this year, so it will flow to free cash. So my thought was to zero that out, as was the intent of last year, which was where I was off $4,000. So I found that. But I did speak to the select board chair about that today. That was her understanding as well. Obviously too late for them to take another vote on that money. So they defer to the FinCom as to your preference, whether or not to keep that in or take it out. Like I said, we got in this year by accident and we're not using it. So I would recommend that we take it out.
Kristen, do you want to share your screen? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a lot of things going on here at once.
Well, I make the motion that we take the recommendation of the town administrator to take line 84, is it?
It's 84, yeah.
84 community social services out of the budget.
I second that.
Okay, can I just get a confirmation exactly, try to remember what the community social services was previously?
So that was a community program called WHEAT that we
Okay,
used
yeah.
to fund, and we couldn't get a confirmation on a number. It was sort of like a donation that was being made and not really something that towns should be doing. So what we have done instead was we continue to provide a zero cost loan to the food pantry here in the building to be able to provide services that way.
Was that maybe developed or came about before we had the active food pantry that we now have?
Yeah,
It's
long,
old,
it's
right?
been there
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, I.
Cliff Eye.
All right. Recommended remove at 3-0.
They assumed that you would not want to have that since we didn't have it. We also couldn't get them to invoice us, which was another issue. So that actually hasn't been paid out this year, I believe last year. So what that brings us back down to then, in looking at those changes, plus the 116,000 from last year continues to haunt me everywhere I go. And the way that it was being represented in the budget was a little bit wonky. So just so you guys are aware, what I had to do after a lot of thinking, and I actually bounced it off a colleague because it just stopped making sense to me after a while. The police department budget, we had to add the 116 into wages because that was really where it actually did go. And then the concern was, are we artificially deflating the actual requested increase by the police department by taking the 116 out? We're really not, because we're offsetting it with 116 again this year in public safety mitigation stabilization. So it's really 6 of one, half a dozen of another, but to avoid confusion, this, I believe, is the best way to represent it, to show it coming in 25. And then when you go over to the revenue page, you'll see that we had 262, 264. I happen to really like round numbers, and I also did the cost of our lowest salaried officers, and it rounds to 262. So that was a savings of $264. But you'll know that when we did this last year, we initially were at a number that was minus the 116, and then we added it back in. So I plan to never do anything with that number in it again in my entire life, because that number is a nightmare. But this is the way DOR wanted us to do it. They wanted us to put it in the police wages, not use it from RNA, and let that flow to free cash to offset the 116 that we put in the Berlin-Boylston budget, because we did 2 movements, one in June and one in December. So I imagine that may come up as a question. I am fully prepared to attempt to explain it. I think that it is very confusing to people. Even my colleague, it was like a solid hour and a half of like walking through the budget to explain what the heck we did. So, you know, I can explain it if need be, as well as I'm sure you can. It
Well,
just looks a
no,
little
it's
weird.
like what you're explaining. I'm lost too. I mean, I understand what we did. I understand what we did last year. I mean, we were limited at special town meeting to, so we used the free cash with the intention of, you know, at the special town meeting December to bring in the 116,000
Correct.
and let the free cash, you know, the number that we had put in towards the um, well, basically let that just roll over into free cash for next year.
Correct. So
So-
what's going to happen is it went into wages. It won't be spent out of raise and appropriate. So that raise and appropriate amount will flow to free cash, which
Okay.
will offset the free cash that was put in June. So it essentially just swaps it and
Right, it
replaces it
just-
with public safety mitigation
Right.
funding.
Okay,
But the way that I had it kind of notated and marked up in the actual budget was more confusing to
Okay.
people than just actually showing it coming in and then coming in on the revenue side. So I've tried to simplify it to make it a little bit easier to understand. And then, like I said, if there's questions, I'm happy to explain why it's written that way.
okay.
And those are the only changes. So where that leaves us at then, I went through and played around with our friend, the levy calculator. If you were wanting to do that 4% increase plus new growth, that is a number of $804,664. That is, as we know, it's not completely a perfect number, as it doesn't completely capture all of the revenues that offset. But basically, the difference between where we need to be to fund the budget at a 4% increase is $804,664 in increased taxes. If we were to fully fund the Berlin-Boylston budget, it would raise that total amount of taxes to $372. So that's where your difference lies. And if you look at how that plays out here, this is with the 911,000. What you're looking at is you're adding up last year's new growth in taxes, you're adding in the 2.5%, and then you would have to take in an additional $333,459 out of excess levy. If you wanted to stay at the 4%, you are talking approximately a $502 increase on the average single-family home bill, again, based on FY25 numbers, without having set the tax rate, without looking at the split and the shift in commercial devaluation, which I always have to say, but I know people like a number, so give or take. And then the number you'd be looking at to fully fund the Berlin-Boylston budget would be $568 on average for an increase.
Can you go back to the expenditure lines? And something I noticed that maybe you were discussing it before we had the finance committee meeting last night, or excuse me, Monday night before we met with the select board. But I'm lost by the Tohoto capital assessment because at last week's Wednesday meeting, the assessment was, well, I think we had a number of just $9,000 there because they were
Yes.
looking at having a capital budget of 25,000 in our share. And I know you were mentioning, but I didn't piece it all together. So,
No problem.
so the schools have increased the Tohoto capital budget to where our share would be 86,000.
So they asked because the capital planning committee, the Berlin Capital Planning Committee voted to allocate $323,002 to them, to be precise. And we only recommend which projects. They obviously get to split that money up how
Right.
they want, but that basically at Tohoto would have covered $73,542 in furniture and $12,460 in auditorium, projector, and controller. Now, because of the way it all works out with the Boylston formula, they actually have reduced that request down to just 25,000 for the middle school furniture, as you said, of which our share is $8,910, I believe. So the question that was raised was, could they take the rest of that funding and use it for devices at both schools? Because the third item on each of their priority lists, as you can see here, were the student and staff device replacements, both at BMS and Tohoto. So the question to the capital committee, and Eloise did report back that there wasn't an issue. That was the question was, are they, comfortable with it? And as Scott Hawkins pointed out, we don't tell them how to line item their budget, but in the interest of transparency, the school always gives us a capital budget and tells us what they intend to use it on. So the question was, can they go up to that dollar amount that was allocated by capital and use the balance for devices? So that actually would bring you out to, I believe it was 77,000 for the devices. And I can pull up the warrant and give you that exact number, but that's why it's the 86,002 number under Tohoto Capital, and that's been offset in the revenue by free cash.
The question I've got though is those cuts, the particular capital cuts I know are related to Boylston. So is Boylston fine with basically, if you're increasing that by that number, that adds an extra 150,000 to their, in the cuts, I understand from the Boylston side were their cut. So, I mean, we can increase the capital, but they're going to have to increase their capital by whatever amount we do, almost 2x.
So I don't speak for Boylston. That was just a request that came through the superintendent. I don't know if he's willing to speak to that, if you would allow that.
Yes, if you can.
Sorry. Conversation with Boston as we speak, that we've been meeting with them the last couple of days as well.
Okay, but you're in just meetings with them at the moment. There's no confirmation that that they have the funding for that share.
We're in conversations with the town of Boston right now, so nothing has been finalized, and we haven't brought that back to school committee just yet.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sorry to be elusive, but it's.
Yeah, thanks. At least we have the update.
Sure, and it could be used at Berlin Memorial, if that's the case. The real matter was the amount that was funded, and then the school wanted to be transparent about what they intended to use that funding for. So as we've done in the past, the capital needs have sometimes shifted, and the school has been kind enough to let us know. And what I've done is I've forwarded that out by email to Capital, FinCom, and Select Board. And I would ask that, once this is finalized, that the same happens from the schools on the communication side, which I trust Al and Aaron will do, so that we know how that money all shakes out. But it would not be
Okay.
over the 323,002.
Okay, because that explains the change there, because I know when we voted on last Wednesday, the 26th, we had voted, the total assessment number was, what do I have here? Of 9,005,186. And of course, if you put that number in there relative to the 9,235,575, though that produced a $230,000 deficit, as opposed, so basically it's, and then I subtracted out the difference of the 9,000, and that brought it down to the approximately $154,000 deficit, which we walked out of that meeting expecting that we had still at the
Right.
schools.
Which we were able to back that down a little bit more by the money that we reduced the town budget by Monday night, plus adding back in animal control. But what happened last Wednesday, the school did not, if I'm getting my dates right, I believe last Thursday was when the school committee revoted their revised number. Was that last Thursday?
I believe it was last Thursday afternoon at noon time.
Right. So when we left Wednesday.
Yeah,
we
just a
didn't-
moment.
People who are speaking in the audience and they're not speaking into the microphone, their audio is not getting recorded.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Brittany.
I think
Sorry.
We'll ask folks to come forward. So, that's my train of thought. Oh, I had a $9,000 as a placeholder, not knowing what the final number was, but the final numbers were prepared and voted the following day. And at that morning, I did receive a call from, the superintendent asking if we could use the remainder of those funds for the Chromebook. So that did unfortunately occur after our last, FinCom meeting, which is why those numbers are different.
Okay, I mean, one of the things, with the chaos of Monday night, I was not expecting this to be what that was, and just to cause more confusion, because at the moment, we did reduce the budget number by the 30,000.
Yep.
We have not taken a new vote to change the assessment to put that 30,000 to the schools yet.
That is correct.
Also what other adjustments that we just discussed here. So we would still, even at the 4%, we would still need to take a new vote to adjust that number to, right now it's lower than, well, quite a bit
Yeah,
lower
it's at
because of the,
106 is
with the
not-
capital number in there, because right now, what we voted on would leave a deficit of, like you said, $230,000 or just over 230.
So but we took the capital out when we calculated the deficit because the capital doesn't hit the tax rate. So that left 106,708.
Right, but we voted again because we went with
Oh,
that
because you went with the
confusing
number.
single
Yeah.
number. We are in this, predicament of confusion. That's
Gotcha.
everything's being caused. Which is, I absolutely hate the single number
get it.
because this is extra
Did you,
chaos it just causes.
did you find Mary?
Yeah, I promoted Mary.
Okay.
Oh, Mary is here. Good.
She didn't
Okay.
maybe see my promotion. You did promote her. It goes away if you don't accept it after a minute. So hold on, let me try again. Sorry, I was trying to do a couple things at once.
There she is.
There we go. Okay.
And let's make sure she's still there, if she'll speak.
Hi,
Yes.
Mary.
Hi there.
I don't know if that was me. I thought I hit promote.
That's all right.
Okay. All right, so we do obviously need a minimum vote here of obviously increasing that capital number or what. And at the same time, if we want to add in the additional savings that we got from the other part of the budget, so that we would have a number that does truly represent a 4% increase, because right now it'd be like slightly under 4.
Right, so that number,
So what, if the deficit, you said, what is the deficit at the moment?
so at the moment, because the calculator isn't quite fully accurate, the deficit is 106,708.
Okay, and the BBRSD number is 9,235,575.
9,235,575, including the full 323,002 in capital.
Okay, and what was the number again? It was 106, what?
106,708.
106,7.
Thought that was me
Mm,
breaking your computer over there.
Yes, we have my calculator.
See it. Oh, there we go.
So, to keep consistent with the 4% number, we should be, taking a vote tonight for the assessment total number, instead of being 9,005,186, to be 9,128,867. If we did that vote, that would account for the extra free cash for capital, and would then move the cuts from the other part of the budget, the 20,000 from reserve fund, 10,000 from the HR expenses, the 4,000 we just talked about from the what was it, the community, what do they call it? Community social services, and the other, adjustments that were made there. That would, so that would not cause the levy to be greater than 4%, but
Approximately, yes.
would more accurately reflect what the, would accurately reflect what the, seems like the number we've come to an agreement on, or at least a recommendation on from the Finance Committee.
Is that 9,128,867?
Correct.
Okay, just want to
Yeah,
make sure we
same
have the
thing,
same
yeah.
number. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's good. For the minutes too, I need to know the number.
All right,
Repeat
let's at least get the, see if we make sure we can clean this up. So I'm gonna, let's see, where is it? 97. So I'm gonna make a motion to recommend for item 97, the, what are we calling it? The Berlin-Boylston Regional Assessment to be $9,128,867. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, but I need to type it first.
Sure. Yeah, give you some time. Again, this would represent the number at the 4% levy increase. So have I explained myself well on this?
So Scott, the motion and the vote is just on updating that number
Correct.
to reflect the changes that have been made.
Correct. This
Okay.
would include the extra free cash that's coming for the capital. And it would also be, the cuts that were made on Monday night, the $30,000 combined, would be moved to the BBRSD assessment. And likewise, the 4,000 we just did tonight, and any other, the adjustments that were made in there.
Let me
So-
ask you a question, because we vote on that one number, we do break it down so that folks can understand, and I do think that's a good idea. So where is that 106,000 coming off of?
It's just coming off the top number.
Okay.
That's how, I've just calculated, I'm not breaking it down by any particular item. Right at the moment, it would leave them at a total deficit of 106,708. And it would just leave the schools to fit, they can break it up any way they want to between BMS and Tohoto. Because obviously the other ones, the debt repayment, the capital is intended for capital.
That's all set.
Yeah,
It would have to be either out of Berlin Memorial operating or out of Tohoto operating. And we know Tohoto gets messy with the formula, but I leave that for the folks who are better calculating that to figure that one out.
right. It does reduce the, where we were a few weeks ago, where the deficit was, and I think what what was reported by them, the March 25th presentation, and what was listed as the budget cuts and savings, that was, on our side, was targeting nearly 207,000, and that would reduce that overall target to just under 107,000. So it actually knocks off provides an additional 100,000
What slide number are you on in that spot?
Oh, well, I just, not specific slide number, but I was just looking what when they listed their budget cuts on slide 5 for, BMS and slide 9 for Tohoto, at least the Berlin cuts on they were targeting, and if you add them up and kind of do the quick percentages with Tohoto, they came pretty close to that, almost on that, just under 207,000 number. So they would be able to offset that by another $100,000 they'd be able to add back to their budget. However they want to do it.
Yeah, I do have and just so you know, just right now, so that we can get, a full picture of it, I did just take it off of BMS. That's not where it has to come off of, but that's the easiest place to take it off of in the budget right now. And I have to give a caveat about that 4%. That is not a guarantee. That is an estimate. I'll have to see how we end up, but that is where we're at right now with the proposed budget.
Right. I mean, this is right. These are the numbers that we always, hopefully you're not coming in next year and finding new growth is only $100,000, and meaning, that there's another 100,000 coming off the levy. So, but that's right. I mean, we can only go by the numbers that where our projections are, and right now it would be 4%. So, do you have any questions on that, Mary?
Yeah, just a detail for Kristen, that shift in police funding that you spoke about, is there actually a dollar savings on that shift that I'm trying to get the total budget savings out of Berlin that
No, there's actually, no, because last year we reduced the public safety mitigation initially and took more from raise and appropriate, but then we switched it. And
Yeah.
so this year we're taking that 116,000 again out of public safety mitigation. So there's no net savings there.
Right, that's what I wanted to get to, was identified net savings from the town
Right.
services.
Well,
And
and
so-
I'll show you here too, just so you can see it, because it does look it was a little funky. You can see where, if you can see the formula, we added in the 116,000 that was added at the December special town meeting. And then I kept it essentially level, although we've had some change in positions. We've had a few more senior officers leave. So even with the adjustments, I am able to do 262 for the 3 lowest salaries of the officers. So we actually made out a little bit there in savings just because of attrition.
Mhm. Okay,
Because normally that number would go up, right, every year because of union contractual
Sure,
increases, et cetera.
but that point is basically a wash. So the dollars that were found in the town services were 30,000 that we talked about on Monday night, and then 4,000 tonight. Were there any others, or is it just 34,000?
No, it's the 34,000, but then you had to add back in that animal control, which was about 14,000. This is the animal control right here. So I
Okay.
moved it so that it is picking it up now in the line total, but because we pulled it out of intergovernmental and moved it up, unfortunately, and it's a mistake on my end, I didn't catch that it wasn't capturing that full amount. But when you
Okay.
look at everything, your difference now is 106.
Well, the question is, how much have we identified this week in savings on the town services that are available to apply to the school district?
So we identified 34,000.
Okay, and is that offset by the animal control thing, or no?
So it's offset by a couple of things. So we actually were able to go up in cemetery receipts as well when we looked at where we were at now that we're further along calculating the current fiscal year. So that helped us pick up a little bit there. So all in all, net total, it washes out to that 106 being a difference, whereas I believe we were talking about 155.
Sure,
last-
but that's not my question. My question is, this week, the dollars to be applied in savings from town services that we're not doing, right? What,
34,000.
it is 34, okay. So the animal control and anything else, they're basically a wash. It's the 34 is the number to think about on the town operating side, yes?
Thereabouts, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a second for the motion. Do we have any other discussion on it? Okay, roll call. Scott, aye.
Area,
Cliff High.
All right. Recommendation passes 4-0. And now we have at least we're at a number at the moment that has a deficit. What is it? 106,708.
Correct. So just for clarification purposes for everyone, the school request was $9,235,575. That was the total roll-up, one line that will be voted on. And that does go as the motion at town meeting, but the FinCom recommended number is the $9,128,867.
At least, at least this brings it where we're at the 4% number that we've cleaned up. We'll know that issue. Otherwise, it was showing a much bigger deficit.
It was, yep.
All
Plus
right.
the added cuts we did on Monday.
Do we have any other discussion we want to have on the school budget? I mean, I just wanted to, first of all, obviously we took a vote Monday night to wash out the entire deficit. It did not pass, locked it 2-2. So this brings us to a better number that does have a recommendation at 4-0. So I don't know if any other thing, Cliff or Heidi, any other?
No, I'm all set.
so
Okay.
Scott,
Yes.
I'm looking at my notes from Monday night. And
Yes.
my note was that the deficit we were looking at was 114,000 roughly, and that represented a 4.75% increase in levy. Is that, do I have the numbers right?
That
If you
should be,
included that amount, it brought you up to 4.75%.
yes. And I guess the only difference is, no, we found another $4,000 since then. So that would slightly reduce it to the 4.75.
But why the difference in the levy estimate, Scott?
The difference in, what do you mean by the difference in the levy estimate?
Well, tonight we're talking about 4%. Monday we talked about 4.75%, but the change in the dollar deficit is only 4,000. Am I missing something?
The part there was, we had approved a number on last Wednesday's meeting, right, on March 26th. That number, which was, the number we used was being a 4% increase. What that number, because again, we voted on the whole thing, a single number, and that was lacking, well, of course, the additional savings of 30,000 from Mondays, the additional $30,000 in cuts, the $4,000 in cuts today, and also the added money for the capital line item. So it keeps the levy number at 4%, but just adjusts it for those cuts and for the capital.
Mary, to your question, I am not entirely comfortable using that levy calculator. I know, we built it, but it doesn't fully account for everything. So what I actually did was look at what the overall increase to the property taxes would be. You are correct, when we did that calculator, it was 114,000. I did pick up some in cemetery receipts, and there were a couple of other, like we talked about, animal control and town offset, and I had to go back and actually look at what is the difference between if we fully funded the school budget. And I know you guys like to work in the percent of the levy, but it doesn't quite calculate out perfectly that way. So if you look at basically what we would need to fully fund the school budget, it's $911,000 in increased tax levy, which works out to just over, it's like 4.8%. So it's right about where you were at, Scott. But the difference is the dollar number is slightly different. So it's $106,000 difference. It's I kind of like why I like to talk in the numbers, not the levy percentages.
Yeah, so unless somebody wants to make a motion for a higher number on that, we'll move on to the next
Kristen,
business.
So what's the dollar figure we're looking at tonight in the levy funding that's needed?
So we would have, so your FY 25 budget, and I did this off to the side here, you're looking at an increase, a total increase in property taxes for everybody of $804,664 in order to fund the budget that you all just voted on 4-0, which means a cut of 106,000 and change to the Berlin-Boylston budget. If you were to fully fund it, it was 911 and change.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Well, I made the motion on Monday. Does anybody else have a motion?
You made the motion on Monday. Art, you're gonna have to run that by me again. I'm throwing.
Yeah, I just made a motion that would clear out the deficit. So since that did not pass, I will leave it to anybody else to make the motion if they want one.
Could you remind me what your motion was that didn't pass?
The motion was for go back to the BBRSD, which would be fully funding the budget at $9,235,575, which would be a levy increase of approximately, I guess, we'll say 4.8%.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm doing my little undo button to put it back so you can see what it looked like before. So that would, if you did it that way, it would be fully funding at the $9,235,575. And that would mean an overall increase in everybody, or the levy, if you will, or all property taxes in town of $911,372. So that's just a titch above 4.75%.
All right, and at the moment, I mean, we had the town administrator was recommending going with that number. When I say that number being the $9,235,575, the select board at the end also recommended that number at 2-0. And when we went with that number, it was locked at 2-2. So unless anybody is willing, unless there's a change of vote to a yes, we can, move on. All right, take that as a no. So let's move on to the other items for our agenda, which is to clean up. Basically, you can put that number into the budget so we know what percentages as we come up with our report.
I mean, yeah, there we go. Hold on. So we're back to the $804,664. I mean, I've said how I feel before, and obviously it's the FinCom's budget, and, I completely respect what the FinCom wants to put forward. As you did mention, it was a unanimous vote by the select board to fully fund the school's budget at the requested number. I look at the past 2 years and I see that we were $750,000 off. We're now talking $106,000. I really do think if we could get on the same page, it would make for a much better town meeting, because then we're going to start to squabble about other articles, and that's my concern.
Fair enough.
I guess we can just leave it. I mean, with the, those that had the no vote, I can ask if there's any consideration on that. Start with Mary.
No, I'd like to stay where I was on Monday. I really haven't shifted. I've looked at things again, and for the reasons I spoke about on Monday, my vote stays the same.
Okay, and Heidi?
I'm leaning towards staying the same, just because our recommendation goes on the warrant as 2 and 2. Ultimately, it's still up to the voters, correct?
That is correct. It is always ultimately up to the voters. And unlike, I mean, now that we have the clickers, I mean, the only thing that was difficult in the old days was, any number that anything was over $10,000 or more, which obviously this is way over that. In the old days, instead of having the aye or nay or a show of hands, you actually had to go to paper ballot, which would slow down town meeting significantly. But because it had to be an anonymous vote. Now that we have the clickers that allow us to do an easy anonymous vote, it doesn't really change anything like in the old days. Like it's just simply like goes. We have to present a recommended budget, so we have to have a budget that's that does pass, and we do have this number that passed tonight. So that's the recommended number from the Finance Committee.
For
And
the overall budget. The overall town
yes,
budget.
the overall budget. Well, we voted on each individual line item, right?
Right.
Break it
And
into sections.
yeah.
And for the schools, we break them out separately.
Right,
So
at
we
the
do
town meeting.
Assabet vote of Berlin Boylston. So this is what your budget looks like based on the vote that you took tonight with the 9,128,867. So what you will see is basically what you see here. It'll show what your FY25 budget was, what was requested in FY26, which will be the school's number of the 9,235,575. And then you will see I called it FinCom budget because I just wanted to differentiate between the two. The motion, however, as we learned from DESI, the school through our regional agreement has the right to request whatever number they voted on the warrant. So the number that will go in the motions that get read at town meeting will be the higher school number. But in the warrant as well, you will have the request and the recommended next to each other.
Okay, but having the split here, the 2 and 2 split, doesn't hold up the process of getting it to warrant, getting it to town meeting.
It doesn't because
No.
you just voted 4-0 to support the lower number.
Okay.
So.
Yes. So when it's brought up and the motion is made, Barry will ask for the FinCom recommendation. And for that particular number that schools make, we will be not have a recommendation, and we can explain and tell them what number that does have the recommendation.
Well, I think you overrode it with your vote tonight, though. Your
What was that?
4-0 vote. No?
What was that?
Didn't you
Overrode
override the vote you took the other night?
the other night. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. We would, but
Yes.
still the number, once the schools make a motion,
Yep.
Barry will ask if that number is recommended. And if they make the motion for the 9,235,575, the answer is that is not recommended by
I see
the
what you're
Finance
saying.
Committee.
That was the split.
Right,
vote.
that will be
That's
the,
what I'm trying to
yeah, that will be the
clarify.
answer. And then, of course, we'll further explain that provide that what the recommended number was by the Finance Committee. And from there, they will have their debate, and then they'll go to vote with whatever, again, after the debate or any other motions that people make, then they'll go to vote. So it doesn't block anything.
Okay.
And unlike last year, where the number was way significantly different. And, and something too that I was gonna talk about, massive increase in the tax rate. This, we are in a much better state in that case. And it'll just go before the voters to make a decision. And of course, the voters have to be recognizing too that I don't know what's on Boylston's side, right? I mean, Boylston came back and asked for cuts. We've now, raised the capital number that obviously the schools can move around, move it just to BMS if Boylston cannot raise that. But, if you do look at what was that presentation, there are cuts there. I mean, if you add up the BMS cuts and the Tohoto cuts, that's greater than what we had recommended. That includes Boylston's. So unless Boylston raises their numbers, I mean, whatever we just provided today, obviously can be directed directly to the BMS budget, and the Tohoto cuts would continue on to, meet whatever is with Boylston. So,
That's up to the
Yeah.
administration and the school committee to
Mhm.
decide how they, how all that shakes out. And I know they'll let us know, as a courtesy, how it all gets divvied up. The one thing I want to be clear about though is I believe the vote that you took this evening supersedes the vote that you took on Monday.
yes.
So it's
correct.
not a split vote anymore. You voted 4-0 to support the lower number.
Well, it was never a split vote. The number was the last March 26th one from Wednesday, the 9,000,005,
Okay.
that was the 186. That was the
That
previous
was that
number.
number.
Yes,
Okay.
that
But
was
this
the,
number tonight that's going in the warrant tomorrow, you have voted unanimously to support.
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
might have been a
Yes.
little bit confusing, so I just wanted to clear that up.
yes. So the number we're supporting is higher than previously
Mm.
was, but does not fully match the BBRSD request.
Correct, but it also doesn't send us over the estimated 4%, which is the target that
That
you
that
are
is
to
correct.
hit.
Well, that is right. That is one of the targets we had. So, any more questions or anybody want a motion? Okay, I think that's the number we will be going with, and now we can just work on finishing out the report.
And the warrant, you have a couple of articles to vote on too.
Yes. Actually, why don't we just get to the warrant?
Just do the warrant.
Yes.
Stop sharing my screen. Give me 1 second here. Actually, you know what? I did it this way so that I could handwrite it, so I didn't have to worry about trying to pull it up if the connection wasn't working again tonight. So if you look at the warrant that is in your drive, we have had a few changes. We had a switcheroo on the prior year expenses. So we went back and took a look and were able to identify funding to pay for the Keene bill that was on there last week because there was an encumbrance from FY 24 that enabled us to pay that bill. Unfortunately, just in the nick of time, I learned, I don't know if it was this morning or last night, that Amazon came through. It must have been yesterday.
Yes.
There was an Amazon bill, unfortunately, from FY 22 that was not showing up on the account. That just got forwarded from the rep over to the police department for $103.20. So it's actually gone down the prior year expenses by about $700, but it is a different bill. So the bill that was on here was able to be paid, but we do have this $103 bill that does need to be paid from FY 22. So I would be asking the finance committee to make a new recommendation on that bill since it is different than what you voted on the other night.
So this is Article 1.
This is Article 1.
Can you bring that up on the screen? This is what wiper blades and cleaning supplies,
Sure, yep.
unpaid bill. Okay, so I'll make the motion to recommend Article 1, prior year's expenses of $103.20 to pay for a police department expense.
Second the motion, Scott.
Okay, any other debate? Go to roll call, Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, I.
Cliff, I.
All right, Article 1 is recommended.
And in related good news for the Conservation Commission, the $41,666.67 that we received this year actually is an FY25 payment that has to flow to free cash. So the payment we received last year, which flowed to free cash, was the full $50,000. So upon confirming with the town accountant, we are able to transfer the full $50,000 to the Conservation Commission this year. Next year, in their last year, they will get the $41,666.76. I think that's what it was that we
Yeah,
had in
something like
there
that.
before. So they actually are able to get the full amount this year. So that is a change up from the lower number.
This is Article 2.
This is Article 2.
Alt. Okay, I'll just call it Article 2.
Okay, I'll make the motion to recommend Article 2, transfer free cash of $50,000 to the Conservation Open Space Fund.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, I.
Cliff, I.
Okay, Article 2 is recommended 4-0.
On Article 4, which is the budget, I just wanted to show you, I met with the moderator yesterday to go over the warrant. And at his request, the little table that breaks down capital for the schools, he asked that that actually be a notation under the budget because it's confusing the heck out of everybody when it's under capital, but we're not actually voting for that dollar amount under capital. That was his request. So he asked that it just be a notation that they're funded out of the operating budget, and then we break it down in the table below. So nothing to vote on, more of a heads up. So then when you get to your FY 26 capital plan, which you have already voted on and you do not need to revote, he has also asked that that be broken up into 3 separate motions because there are different votes. If you vote it all as one, it's a 2/3 vote that's required for the whole thing. Whereas free cash requires a simple majority vote and the ambulance receipts reserve requires a simple majority vote. So he just asked if we could break it up into the 3 motions because the public safety stabilization is the one that requires 2/3. So sort of more just semantics and at the request of the moderator, I don't really see an issue with that. It's the same dollar amount at the end of the day.
Right, and actually the exact reason why we would like to see the schools move to an individual item, because if they do ever need stabilization for a capital item, it's the whole budget's going to require a 2/3 vote.
That is true. So by, separating it out, there are things that might be impacted by a 2/3 vote that shouldn't be. So you're actually breaking it up into the parts as how they should be voted.
Was that brought
Yeah.
up to Desi? It seems like they're just hard set on not thinking things through. Yes,
I think
One
I might
number-
have gotten beaten with that a few times. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little shell shocked about the one number, but yeah.
Yes, I mean, but yeah, well,
I know.
logic doesn't necessarily always apply, so.
I just know that it needs to be one number. All right, so I just saw a typo there, so let me just grab that. The next one that we need from you, I believe, are the CPA articles. I'm just
Yes.
scrolling through I highlighted, yep. So the first one is going to be Article 12, which is the Community Preservation Act FY 26 budget. This is where the appropriations get broken down by what gets allocated to administrative expenses, budgeted reserve, and then the buckets, as we call them, because 10% has to be put aside for housing, historic, and open space. So what you have before you is the requested budget from CPA for FY26.
Okay, so to the motion, motion is recommend Article 4, the Community Preservation Act FY26 budget.
Oh, it's Article 4. I'm for that.
Article,
12.
Oh, sorry, did I do 4? Article 12, sorry.
If you
Article
make it,
12.
yeah, if you make it Article 12, I'll second it, Scott.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
Article 12.
Yes,
All right.
Article 12,
Are
I'm
you
sorry.
just approving the
Recommendation is
budget as a
Article,
whole, not a number?
Article 12, Community Preservation Act FY26 budget. So we have a second, Mary?
Yes,
Okay, any other discussion on this? All right, roll call. Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, aye.
Cliff, aye.
Okay, Article 12 recommended.
The next three articles, Articles 13, 14, and 15 are the recommended CPA projects for FY26. The first is access to Mount Pisgah. This would be $30,000 from the open space rec fund balance reserved to provide additional safe parking and access to Horseshoe Pond and the Mount Pisgah Trail Network. Funds to be expended by the Conservation Commission.
All right, we've already had, Tim has come in and given information on that, so motion is to recommend Article 13, Community Preservation Act FY26 project, Mount Pisgah access.
Second it.
Pisgah,
Second the motion.
have a second?
Yes.
Let Cliff catch up.
I've caught up.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
any other discussion on this?
No,
Okay, roll call. Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, aye.
Cliff, aye.
Okay, Article 13 recommended.
By the way, the spacing, when it went into Google Docs, got all messed up. It looks correct in Word, just so you know. It was really pretty and now it's making me sad because it looks terrible. All right, Article 14 is the CPA project of I always say this wrong, accessioning and de-accessioning, I believe, the historic collection. So this is $13,500 from the fund balance reserve for historic preservation to catalog, basically, the town's collection of historic clothing and accessories, which from what I understand, we have a pretty extensive and impressive collection.
All right, motion is to recommend Article 14, Community Preservation Act FY26 projects, historic collection.
Seconded.
With a second. And Tim Wheeler had come in and updated us on this one. So any other discussion?
No,
Okay, roll call. Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, aye.
Cliff, aye.
Okay, Article 14 recommended. 4-0.
And last but not least, Article 15 is the stair design at the front of the 1870 Town Hall. If anyone has been up or down those stairs, that's probably all I need to say. Almost fell down them myself. So this article would provide $10,000 to fund the design of a new staircase and replace the existing staircase at the front entrance. So it would address the current granite steps and see if a new route could be established on the north side of the building where there's now a cement stairway. And looking at maybe doing some type of a wraparound into the existing granite staircase. So this would fund $10,000 for the design out of historic preservation. And then the actual construction of what is recommended by the historic architect would come back to CPA for funding next year.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend Article 15, Community Preservation Act FY26 projects, 1870 stair design.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second.
2 seconds.
Yes. And again, this is Tim Wheeler had been in to update update us on this. So any other discussion? Okay, roll call. Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Heidi, I.
Cliff, I.
Okay. Article 15 recommended 4-0.
And that's it. The remaining articles are non-financial / bylaws, which are non-financial.
Right, good.
So total articles is 22.
There are a total of 24. Yes, 24. It ends with the recess to the annual town election.
And if anything to note, since there was lots of, last year was unique with the operating budget not being until Article 10. This year it's much sooner, Article 4. So as long as there isn't lots of debate in the first 3, we'll get to that at an earlier point, but who knows?
Well, and part of the reason there are so few current year articles is because we had a special town meeting in December. So normally you would see 10 current year articles. That's completely common. And you do your current year first, then you move into the next fiscal year. But fortunately, December town meeting, special town meeting removed the burden of some of those articles and hopefully will speed up the annual town.
Okay. So we have no, do we have any reserve fund transfer costs?
We don't have any new ones
this
because
is
I
fine.
think
Oh, we need to
you
stop.
voted on them.
We did.
And I didn't have the paper. No,
No, he came back to the office.
I was like, I know, I signed it and it went somewhere. So this is just the reserve fund that you all voted on at, I don't even think it was the last meeting. I think it might have been the one before.
It was the 26th.
That was the
Yes.
26th.
For the treasurer collector expenses.
Yep.
How's Mary do it? Does she have to
How does Mary sign?
Do you want to come in at some point and sign, Mary? Do you want to authorize someone to sign on your behalf?
Or I
What-
can get a copy of the minutes.
Okay.
yeah, the minutes to do it, yeah. When do you need it, June?
Like I said, I can use the minutes.
Use the minutes, yeah,
Okay,
because
we
I'm
approve the minutes and I'll
Yep.
forward out or
not back till the
Sure.
11th, so it makes sense to do it a faster way if you can.
No worries.
all right. So now we need to get to our report. So can we
Is it, you emailed that,
I
right?
just emailed it to you.
Let me just open my email.
Now that we have final numbers for the budget, we can fill in some other things.
So just save it. Second. Okay. So I have it pulled up here. I don't know if I can make it bigger, so. it's
Oh,
easier to
that's
read.
great.
Do I want it even bigger? Look at that.
Oh, awesome.
There you go. Okay.
All right, so what is the, now that we have the
You're gonna make
final
me open the
numbers
budget
in there,
again.
what the, yeah,
Okay, hold on.
Thanks for that, Scott.
Hold on. I will double check this again tomorrow to make sure the numbers are right, but it looks like I put in the 9,128,867. So when we bring that all the way down to the bottom, your budget now is $17,951,990, which represents an increase of 4.9%.
all right.
Do you want me to just update this as we go?
I don't know if you want to update or I can update it.
Oh, if you want to update it, then I can give you the data. How's that?
Yes. So putting in
So
the
let's do
4
that again.
point,
So, if you want the percentage, the total percent increase is 4.9%.
okay.
Do you need to share that screen so Mary can see or not necessarily?
Well, it's okay. You don't need to share it for me. I'm
Okay.
I'm looking at the email copy that Scott sent, so.
Okay.
Well, I will share it for the other folks.
Okay.
Online.
Let's go.
All right, what's the next number you're in need of here?
Well, we're just doing the overall title part of it, last year though, we had excluded everything because of the switch to offset receipts for the transfer station to not make the numbers so skewed. So I
Yep.
think I can remove that. It's just excluding, it just excludes school capital, which is now encompassed in that one number. Actually, this includes school capital in that, right?
It does.
Yes, it
Because
does.
Yeah, we have to have that. But don't forget, it is offset on the revenue sheet, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could play with it if you want. It's not gonna make a huge difference, I don't think, in the overall percentage.
All right, we'll just go with the 4.9. All right, and the Finance Committee recommends increasing property tax levied under this budget by 4.0% over FY 25. Budget continues a third straight year of a levy increase of 4% or higher. The 4% increase provides an additional,
$804,664,
let's just give it around
Approximately. 805,
805
because we know that is an
Okay.
estimate.
in revenue for FY 26. And the additional revenue over 2.5% would be 227K because they
Correct.
did the 75 whatever by times 3. Okay, and anything we want to mention on the Berlin-Boylston Regional School District here, since it's always a big number? Do we want to highlight?
If you're looking for the overall increase numbers, or percentages, the FinCom recommended budget represents an overall increase of $686,672, or an 8.1% increase.
Okay,
And that's rolled up into that one number. Correct. So for FY 25, just for reference, our assessment was $8,442,195. So if you're going to the $9,128,867 that the FinCom just voted for, that is a increase of 8.1% over FY 25.
so 8.5
8.1.
or 8.1.
Shoot. Oh, never mind.
How about anything on, do you want to mention any of the budget cuts in the top paragraph?
School, town, who are you,
Well,
any and all?
I mean, overall, there are true cuts that were decreased. I guess it's a matter of how you want to consider what cuts are. Maybe we just won't mention that in the top part and just go with the
I mean, you could mention that the FinCom recommends an additional 106,000, the number that you just recommended, and cuts beyond the school committee voted number.
all right.
In the top paragraph, you highlight the Berlin-Boylston Regional School District increase, but you kind of bury the estimate increase down below.
Yeah, that's what wonder if we do need to
Shouldn't they
put
both
it
be
in
in the
there.
top paragraph?
Yeah.
No, Scott, one of the things that I would like to tell the residents of town in this first paragraph is that on all fronts, we look to contain spending. we did it in the town, we did it with the schools, and the schools cooperated in bringing down spending. So I think that point is useful to put up top. And I agree with Cliff that you want to do the BBRSD down in the bullet points as opposed to that top line paragraph. But I think we've asked a lot out of many people involved in this budgeting process in terms of their aspirations and said, can you take them down? Because we don't want to burden the residents unless it's really important, right? So I think I think that needs to be acknowledged in this first paragraph. Specifically calling out the town departments and the school district for working hard to get that 4.0% increase, right?
Yeah, I would say both, you know, that the town and the BBRSD and the town made significant budget cuts
Yeah.
to arrive at that
Yep.
overall budget number.
Yeah, I agree. That should be highlighted.
Yeah,
we
I'd
get
like
into
that
the
up front to tell people that we worked hard on this. There's a lot of stuff, you know, you look at the insurance costs and stuff and you just, they're crazy. They shouldn't be where they are, but it's a reality. So,
Okay, so let me see here. My formatting down. All right. So this budget required budget cuts from multiple departments.
I think it's more restraints in spending because, you know, a budget cut implies that something was already there, but there was restraint in spending
I think there were
proposals.
deep cuts too. I mean,
Yeah.
All right,
Budget,
okay.
budget,
I don't know. That's my.
No, I think there've been cuts for sure. Absolutely. To pretend there
Cuts.
haven't been would be a mistake.
both the town, Berlin side and the Berlin Boylston Regional School District. Okay. Let's just get into the highlighted items here. COLA was a 2% cost of living adjustment. Now expenses that basically we requested level expense budgets, right? It wasn't level services like in past.
It's actually level expense budget. So,
Level expense budget, right? Not level service expense budgets.
and then, yeah, I think that's actually correct. So supplemental or above level service requests were submitted on a separate form, some of which are recommended for funding, or actually in this case, one of which is recommended for funding.
From formatting observation, it might be good to bold the words level expense budgets,
Yeah, okay, level expense.
because that was the target. And, you know, sometimes words get lost in a paragraph.
And there's, as we know, is a difference between a level expense budget and a level
Uh-huh.
services budget.
Yeah,
So
you and I had that conversation last year.
All right, yeah, bold and italics.
So anything that added a new service or went above an existing service would go on supplemental.
Yes.
Okay. Next, Assabet Regional Vocational Technical High School, of course, the budget for Assabet increased by nearly 164K.
Just take out one of those Ks after.
Yeah, I have.
Thank you.
Due to an increase in projected enrollment of 7 from 37 to 44, and a depletion of out-of-district tuition revenues to offset the budget, they had a $1.6 million decrease.
Do you want to say previously used to offset the budget?
Total, yeah, let's see, and depletion of out-of-district tuition revenues previously used to offset the budget. And basically that was a $1.6 million decrease off budget offsets from out-of-district tuition.
I think you can get rid of the comma on offsets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not possessive.
Okay. And then Assabet's budget operates at the state's mandated
That's where your comma
Man.
belongs.
the minimum level contribution
Yeah.
level. I don't know, I may.
I
just
can, if you
remove-
give me permission, I can proof it for Scribner's errors tomorrow.
Right. Okay,
That's what you're-
now it's the Berlin Boylston Regional School District, new administration, BBRC has worked in collaboration with Finance Committee.
I use the same format as you did for Assabet, that the budget for you know how you said that you
Yep.
led off with how the budget increased and what caused that increase. And then definitely keep the piece that you got in there,
Okay,
but keep to the same format.
okay, just make that not the leading paragraph.
Yeah, because you have those bullet points. But there's a line between them, so it makes it look like
let's
they
see,
kind of
which-
belong to something else.
Which bullet points have the line in between, wait. Oh, let's see. So. So as I should say, just say and use the same wording, the budget for BBRSD increased by. Okay, all right. So the budget for, the budget for the increased by, what was the number again? 687,000.
You talking about the recommended one or their requested one?
Yeah, we need to somehow incorporate that. The recommended, I'll start with the recommended budget. Amended,
The
My budget.
FinCom recommended budget is an increase of $686,672. Or an 8.1% increase.
okay, the finance committee recommended budget increased by 687,000. And that was 8.1%.
Mhm. And then if you want the number for the school committee voted budget. I can
Yeah,
give
let
you
me
that
see here.
too. I
budget
just
increase
hid the
was
percent change column, but it's 9.4% as you have.
FY 2026. And what was that again? Okay, so the FinCom okay. Reckon. BRSD assessment is, again, what was it? He said,
FinCom recommendation or the school committee one? Which one are you looking for?
I'm gonna, need to put the FinCom in one here.
Okay.
BRSD assessment is,
$128,867.
$67. This is what we'll just call it 107,000 less than the BBRSD
Yep.
recommended budget of 9,235,575.
We got the rest of that in there. I can double check it too.
Okay. So, yeah. What kind of formatting's going on here? Alex. All right. Let's see. So we want to break down, probably should break that down. So the BBRSD requested operating assessment increase. You probably need to, well, this gets complicated now because you have the capital items, you have the,
Are you doing, well, I can do operating. Are you doing operating plus debt?
We can do, well, I want a separate line item for the debt, well, it's debt, not department. I want the debt because of the, separate because of the missed, how we were not getting assessed for the FY
Yeah, that
2018 bond.
explanation needs to be in there.
Yeah, so the Tohoto debt repayment of 550,883 is an increase of 90,948 or FY 2025. This increase is primarily due to a 2018 bond repayment that had not appeared in BBRSD's assessment in either FY 24 or FY 2025. This bond repayment will now appear in our assessment until maturity at the end of FY 2033. I put that last line item in there to make people not underthinking, say one time. I mean, that's like a one-time increase and then goes away. It just was not being assessed. And now it will continuously be assessed until it matures.
You might need to get a little bit of clarification on that, because I thought it was an interest payment from both of the bonds that didn't get made.
No,
It was the
no, they didn't
entire
get made.
payment.
They never assessed us, either the debt or the interest. It was both.
Okay,
Yeah, if you go,
I believe you.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
That's correct. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it
Yeah.
was the interest on both. I'm wrong.
Um,
Ignore me.
We were only assessed one payment instead of two, Scott, right? So that one payment include both elements of debt and interest. I mean, principal and interest.
we weren't assessed anything in the last two budgets.
From
Thought
the
we got, I thought we
Yes.
got assessed for one payment, but not two. No?
No, we weren't assessed for any of the payments in
Hmm, okay.
FY 2018 budget.
And
if I'm
then-
correct. Yeah, that is correct. We
Okay.
did not, we weren't assessed for any part of it.
in that same explanation, should it say repayment that had not appeared in BBRSD's assessment? Shouldn't it be did not appear in Berlin's assessment?
Yeah, we should say that. I mean, even it was both repay had not appeared in
Well, you could say BBRSD's assessment to the town of Berlin. That way
assessment.
you
Oh,
kinda
that's
cover
good. That's
yourself there.
better.
Yeah, it's assessment to Berlin. That's what it is.
I mean, I think they had the same problem with Boylston side, right? So.
Oh, so it was both.
Yes, it was both towns. I
Okay.
mean, the increase is primarily due to a bond repayment that had not appeared in BRSC's assessment to the town of Berlin. And I'll put in parentheses, likewise Boylston. So nobody thinks it was just us in either FY 2024 or FY 25. All right, and let's move up to the BMS capital request is 237,000, a 93,868 increase or FY 25. The town capital assessment is 86,002, an increase of 47,749 or FY 25. I removed the percentages just because the percentages on the capital will bounce all over the place and look awful when you're putting percentage. I think just the dollar amount is
I think that's a
sufficient.
good idea.
And these costs are funded by free cash in the capital plan. And then how we want to do the operating, requested operating assessment increase of, so we should figure out
That
what
is
the
correct.
op-
568.15.
568.15, which is that 7.2% increase. Is that correct?
Oh, hold on, I didn't do that math, sorry.
Now, the last sentence of the, and because
We could do just the dollar amount on that one too.
yeah, I'm gonna remove the second one there because again, I'm not sure what our number was last year.
Yeah,
Or do we what?
I'd leave the percent out.
Yeah. I'm only putting the percentage on the operating assessment.
Hold on, actually, I might have it. Wait a minute.
We don't want the summary to make confusion.
Yeah. Because it's all broken out, I literally would have to reformulate that.
Actually, I mean, I did the calculation. If that was correct, I mean, like 7.2.
I
I
can,
mean, if that first number,
Yeah.
because I calculated amount here, the previous number last year was 7,800,875, and an increase of 560,815 is 7.2% over that.
Yeah, I mean, and I can double check it too tomorrow before everything goes.
So that next sentence, it says, this is in addition to the 8.9% increase approved by the town meeting.
I've just deleted it.
Okay, good. I was going to say, what is that
left
about?
over?
Yeah, that was last year's.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Let's
public
see.
safety.
Well, the last, let's see. And then the last paragraph, the new administration, BBRC has worked in collaboration with the Finance Committee to build the FY26 budget. The two sides have met in December, February, March, to communicate budget requests and revenues available. Do you want to put also in communications have been through the town administrator and the administration?
Superintendent.
Super, yeah. Oh. Also includes ongoing communication between superintendent and the town administrator. Okay. Public safety. The recommended police budget reverts back to fund 3 police officers from public safety mitigation funds.
Funding, I think.
Safety mitigation funding.
It's back to funding 3 police officers from public safety mitigation funds.
Okay. Oh, funding up there, sorry. Okay, in FY25, this was reduced to fund 2 officers from the third, with the third funded from the budget, but after special town meeting in June, this was changed with a funding agreement. BBRSD, 116 free cash was temporarily used at the June special town meeting, with 116K added from public safety stabilization December special town meeting to offset the free cash used in June.
That's a really easy way to explain it. You get to explain it now.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
So that was off the
Now,
plate.
This is called punishment for doing good things. You get to get up at town meeting.
Okay, and the recommended budget fully funds the 11th full-time police officer, half of which was funded in the FY25 budget. No additional full-time police officers are added in FY26.
That's all correct.
And then there is an increase of 64,650, 5.2% of police wages, as a result of the new union contract. In effect, the major change was increase in incentive pay for education to better compete with surrounding.
That's the wrong
towns.
effect. It's EFF.
That's what I thought.
I need
too.
the, let's see.
Yep.
Do better compete. Where's my,
Result the new union contract in. okay.
First
in
sentence, right?
effect?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right, now the rest of this, nothing was actually
I was gonna
updated.
say, yeah, you
Um,
could take out the highway. There's nothing new. in
I don't think,
highway.
yeah, Public Works, anything there. So let me just,
I could pull.
I
it.
have all my notes here. I just did not,
Okay.
get time to get to that point.
Oh, good Lord, it goes on and on.
Well, it was really ugly last year because of all the line items that were
It's not a
removed and
criticism, Scott,
modified.
I'm just
It was-
looking, I'm just realizing.
Didn't you inform him that he has to stay to 1 8.5 by 11 page space?
So,
That's all-
the one
that's all
page
he's
PDF.
That
allocated.
fade size 12 font. No messing with the margins. Yes.
All right, so the COA, let's look at this, make sure I understand it. So there's a new social services director. My understanding too, there's
COA director.
new COA director.
Right.
Yeah, so
no
get rid of
longer,
social services.
and so
Here, borrow my pen.
where'd it go? I just,
You probably ate it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Wow. It took until 10 for a good,
Wow,
a good
yeah,
goofy
that was
comment. You
good.
got a free.
Well, that's because we started an hour
Well, there
late,
you
so
go.
everything's,
Can go about an hour and a half
So there's a
before
piece of
things get
paper.
a little
Thank you.
funky. Okay.
All right, so, so basically, well, the big thing, I think the difference was a decrease in salary at the COA director.
Correct.
Before it was a licensed social worker
Correct.
and,
We moved from a full-time COA/social services director to a part-time COA director.
okay, so, okay. All right, so basically we want to say is,
Just what she said.
okay, okay, so the town moved from full time social services director,
COA/social services director.
COA / social services director to
A
part-time
part-time.
COA
Yep.
director.
You might want to add that social services director was a licensed social worker, or just I don't know if you want to put that in.
Full-time COA social services director. I'll just put in parentheses in licensed
Social worker.
social worker. To a part-time COA director.
And that would largely be because of the end of COVID.
Yes, so we want to mention that then because of the end of COVID.
Because of the pandemic. I mean, that person was there mostly organizing health clinics and vaccines and all of the things. Referrals.
This is possible with the end of,
And that was ARPA funding.
It was ARPA funded.
Yep.
So now it's not.
It was always part-time ARPA, wasn't it? Part-time.
Yep,
town
it was
and ARPA.
half-time ARPA funded. Yep,
Yeah.
this is the first year that it is not ARPA funded.
okay, how do I want to say, this is possible with the end of COVID? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
COVID emergency or,
Pandemic.
Pandemic funding.
all right. And then the other is eliminated the van driver line item. So,
So you eliminated van drivers, recommend selling the van.
okay. Okay. Driver line item was eliminated. What's the saving?
Net savings is about 15,000 because you put some money towards expenses.
15K.
And then the goal also to sell the van and talk to the regional transit authorities about providing additional transportation.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess part of it right now, we already have a solution. So due to
Partial,
the,
yeah.
we have a, okay, so,
We don't have anything going west. We only have going east right now. So we have to
Okay.
explore the Worcester part of this.
this is,
That's what the van was doing.
this service
Finding drivers.
is offset by,
Metro West Regional Transit Authority, or the MWRTA. It's catchy,
region
not to be confused with the WRTA.
authority.
You're gonna play alphabet soup here.
Okay, this is service offset by the Metro West Regional Authority,
Transit Authority.
Regional Transit Authority, okay.
And they are offering door-to-door service in Berlin and Hudson
Didn't you say it's a grant? That was like
through a
or
grant. Yep.
Regional Transit Authority grant offering
Door-to-door service.
door-to-door service
Is it
to
by appointment?
Hudson and select points in Marlboro, right?
Correct. Berlin and Hudson, and then, yep, that's good.
Select.
Select points in Marlboro.
Select points in Marlboro. Grant will cover all of FY26, right?
It's an
We'll go into-
18-month grant, so yes,
Yeah,
it will
just so
cover
that
all of 26.
this
Yep.
Grant will cover all of FY26. And then you do want to put in there the discussions continuing or just leave it at that?
Yeah, maybe you could just put ongoing discussions or discussions continue with the
Right.
WRTA regarding transportation west.
RTA for transportation going west.
I think that's great. And then you can take recreation out because there are no changes to recreation this year.
Yeah. Benefits and insurance,
Health insurance is a 12.1% increase.
12.1.
Mhm.
increase for FY 26.
And now it's all together, so you should take out the 45,000 to fund retiree, because we do it all
It's a one
as one lump.
budget.
It's one number.
We're getting a
And
lot.
the Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment increased by, what was it?
Worcester Regional went up by 11.3%, or. Let me know when you're ready.
3%
Yeah.
or,
$819,280. Oh, no, I'm sorry,
no,
that's for the
that-
new
I was gonna
numbers.
say it was 71, last.
That's quite an increase. Wow.
Yeah, I would protest that. $82,966. Still
So 83K.
83, yeah.
Okay. And let's see, last time a lot of
We
these
call out a
expenses,
few
all these
lines.
things just almost need to be thrown out, but we need a line item for library. And I don't think, well, part of it, whatever cuts you made, maybe just a.
Put the
cut
cuts in there.
thing,
Yep. If
maybe
you
we'll
put in
just-
library, I can flesh that out. And if you put town cuts, I can literally cut and paste what I just put on the website. I meant to mention that earlier. I put a document up on the budget page on the town's website
I
that
saw
shows
it.
all the town budget cuts.
All right, so for library.
There's a rumor floating out there. that the
Adding
town
it.
didn't make any cuts,
Oh, there's always.
but I don't listen to Facebook, so I'm just,
So like all these bullets under expenses and services will be deleted. It's gonna be a whole
Correct.
new.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
library and cuts, and I can call out any I mean, basically, because, yeah, nothing increased really much.
Because I
But-
think we will put in, right, like we just did the reserve fund cuts, the tax title cuts.
Yeah.
No, a big one needs to be in there, a separate, I think this thing is the elected officials
Mhm.
cuts, because I think that should
That's on
stand
the list.
alone.
Yep.
And even though the dollar amount seems to be small, the fact that it does have an impact on the eligibility for health insurance, and it helps give us the more confidence of making the cuts that we did in the chapter 32B.
Got it. So if
All
you
right,
give me
so-
discretion to flesh that out, I will do
Yes.
so.
So let's see, so how we want to say the library, okay,
An increase in payroll of $11,000 to maintain some of the maintain some of the library's current hours, I guess is the best way to say it.
Maintain a portion.
A portion of, thank you. My ability to articulate is like going downhill at this point.
Well, it's only 10:11.
I'm a night owl
Yes.
too, so I really shouldn't have an
All right.
excuse, but after so many, can't do it anymore.
so the library is presently open 33 hours.
Yeah, and that would
Okay.
bring it to,
The request is to man a desk on each floor.
that would bring desk staffing to 46 out of 66 hours.
Or for a total staffing of 66 hours. Present staffing is 46.
No, present's 36.
I thought
So
the-
it's up from 36
They want
to
66,
46.
the present is 46.
The present's 36, and if this brings it to 46. If we had funded the other one, it would have brought it to 56. It's still, even with both requests, it did not fully fund it.
Oh, so they're only at 36 right now?
Yes. So they're still going to have to cut their hours.
Request is man, death, these floors are still staffing. Present staffing is 36 hours. This addition will move them to 46 hours. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, Kristen's right.
Yeah, I have it in, I was just
Yeah.
gonna pull up my email and double check, but I'm almost positive, because that's how I pulled that right off the supplemental funding request.
All right. Let's see. So
throw the
let's see,
cuts
you
in.
have the tax title, reserve fund, legal, streetlights. There's less elections. Compensation of the board, town boards. Yeah, that covers, let me just see here. Oh, there's anything on the fire EMS to kind of update on that? It's,
Oh, well, we have, funding's been shifted
yes,
from
to,
call to
from per diem to some,
call, yeah, from call slash per diem to adding 2 more full-time firefighters.
okay, so should we reflect that under public safety?
So it's not an increase in costs, it's a reallocation of existing
Okay.
funding
Fire
to have
EMS budget
24-hour coverage.
has shifted. You want to say call?
It's call, because we still have a part-time budget, so there's call, part-time and full-time.
Call. On call salary,
Call wages,
on call
right? Wages.
wages
Yeah, not salaried. it's a
to
It's not
two
stipend.
It's not.
two additional full-time firefighters.
Mhm.
Has shifted,
And that's resulted in a substantial reduction in unfilled shifts.
salaries to fill, to better fill all shifts,
Unfilled shifts,
better fill unfilled.
a substantial reduction in unfilled shifts.
To,
You're gonna have to double check them.
Oh, I like
Yes.
that. It's okay. Well, and in case anyone's curious, the reason for that is because now you have a full-time person on every shift because they work 12-hour shifts. You have 2-day, 2-night. And there are firefighters that may not work that often that didn't want to be on by themselves. So now that you have a full-timer who knows the station really well and knows the deal here, there are call people coming back and taking more shifts because they're comfortable now because they're paired up with somebody who is here all the time.
That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, if you asked me to go do it like once in a while, I'd be like, no, because I don't want to mess something up, you
Yeah.
know?
okay, I'll just put a line item here for your reminder of the elected official / board salaries.
And every station's different with their own unique equipment, machinery rules, all
And
that.
cut
stuff.
amount in resulting in removing 10 removing exposure to 10, I don't know, exposure to, however you want to say, cut amount resulting
I'll
in
fix it.
removing, reducing exposure to chapter 32 benefits or whatever, how you want to
32B.
do,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll fix that.
32B.
You don't get a third page. I'm cutting you down to 2. How's that?
All right. Yeah, and then I think, at that point now it just gets to the summary.
Yeah. Save me a
And,
page in the warrant printing costs.
and we remove Julie's name, unfortunately. But we add Heidi.
That's right.
I'm here.
And just make sure, I know I put in all things HEIDI and PITARD, right? Okay,
It's regrettable you list us alphabetically. I end up first.
no, I just realized I just literally just replaced Julie right where she was added. It still comes off alphabetically. So, okay, the FY 26 budget, well, so what do we want to, FY 26 budget, make some hard decisions. Mixed with that
A
way.
lot of cuts. To expenses. Not to personnel, but it's significant cuts to expenses. Across the board.
There was actually a couple of not employees, but like COA
Oh, yeah.
adjustments.
Right,
think you did
largely
in-
expenses, but.
It's mostly
Yeah,
expenses.
there were a couple, you're absolutely right.
Inspectors,
Yep,
right? So there was a
elected
few,
officials, stipend,
elected- yeah.
elected board committee member stipends.
majority was it just expenses, but
Yeah,
didn't do any layoffs.
correct. Because we're so slim on personnel to begin with, that the
Mhm.
only place we really could look at was, could we get slimmer on expenses? When
Pretty
you only
much.
have offices with one person or
Yeah.
maybe 1.5.
See, Scott, on the names of the committee on the bottom of the report,
Yeah,
would it be appropriate to thank Julie for her service?
we can, yes, because she
I
was
mean-
part of this committee for a good chunk of it this year.
Mhm.
And where do you want to do that? Just before it then, and then,
Also, if you'd really like to be proper, the chair's name is supposed to be first.
oh God.
I was doing that for Cliff. Who doesn't want his name
Cliff doesn't like to be
first?
first.
You owe me, Cliff.
I do.
And how long was she on the committee? I think she was like
Oh,
5
long
years or
time.
almost
I-
5 years.
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know.
For all of your years of service.
She had just come in, I think the same year I did, but she started at the beginning of the year. So I started in January 21, so, but she had started at like the July of 20.
Your
Right.
many years of service?
Yeah, I
Um,
would do many years. of
You
service.
could just leave it as your years of service.
Yeah. Okay,
Like that?
just put in,
Cause maybe she'll get bored and come back.
yes.
Yes, when she's done with her education.
Yep.
The
Am
education.
I that transparent, June? Come on.
No.
Oh, did you get bored and come back?
No. Mm.
No, it went over my head. That's all right.
I'm sure she's missing things. I'm sure of it.
Isn't she online right now? What?
While painting.
All right.
Kristen, when does this need to be done for tomorrow?
Come on.
Tomorrow.
What time?
I
You know-
said Thursday, so I suppose I have until 11:59
Right.
PM.
We've got literally 0 accounting line changes, right? This
Dare
time
I
around.
say,
Reduction.
Mary, why do you ask?
Do we
I
have-
I just didn't know whether there was a final review tomorrow. I'm just asking for that purpose.
I will review it if you give me the authority to do so.
Yes.
I won't change content. I can just make sure there aren't any typos and that we're grammatically
Was Mary volunteering?
correct.
Were you volunteering?
Oh, were you volunteering?
No, because you just did the writing for the website, Kristen, so I think it makes sense. It's fresh for you. It's just that if you wanted another set of eyes to look at it, in specifically any input on the final from FinCom, I just wondered process-wise, I'm just asking a process step, and also whether I should be looking at email tomorrow morning, that kind of thing.
So we can't make changes over email because that would violate
Okay.
open meeting law, but I could work with 1 or 2 of you because it is a 5-member board, even though it's down to 3, a quorum's, even though it's down to 4, a quorum is 3.
Yep.
So however you guys want to do it, I'm totally fine with.
To finish this off.
Mhm.
Mary, you sound like you're volunteering.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with drafting on things. I'm okay, but I just wanted to make sure the process was clear about getting the final product done, and it's hard to write this in the moment on the fly, Scott. So
Yes.
I have a great idea. How about Scott, you send it to Mary tonight, and then Mary, you update it, send it to me, and I'll just drop in the cuts.
well, it's a question of whether you want to do the numbers first or the words first. I suggest you do the numbers first, Kristen.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm going to send it out to everybody, but Mary, you've
Do not-
got the ball.
You can all look at it, but you cannot discuss it.
Yeah. You know, right.
Okay,
Understood.
Please don't violate open meeting law.
Nope.
I'm fine not discussing it.
Okay, that's just perfect.
I probably won't even be able to
Okay.
open and look at it at work.
All right.
All right.
That's-
Anything else?
No.
Well, thank you for, sorry, I made a mistake. We had to start at 8:30. Okay. Motion to adjourn.